computer. Hello, everyone. So this is Lori, and this is for the Healthcare Heroes Force group. We are interviewing tonight Daniel Webb. He works as a consultant at FSM, Fast Slow Motion Company. And Erin Raye is a NP, nurse practitioner, who's switching to Salesforce. She is very well into that. She's going to start very soon. So I'm going to give the floor to her to interview Daniel.
Thank you, Lori. Let me pull up my questions here. So I want to thank you for in setting up all these interviews, first of all, and starting the group. It's been really helpful and a great way to get connected. I've got a few questions here to start with for Daniel. I think one of the biggest things, is what was your background before getting into Salesforce? And sorry, I want to thank you, Daniel, for taking the time too, as well today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
But about how long did it take you to kind of transition into Salesforce, and what was your background before you did that?
Yes, my career background has been very diverse. So I have a degree in French and Spanish, super useful these days. And then I spent.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Then I spent about 8 years in full-time pastoral ministry, straight out of college. And then in 2014, I actually transitioned from that to fight my way into the for-profit space. And that took me along a journey of working in sales and operations for a while, and then commercial real estate in Seattle. I was living in Seattle doing as a commercial real estate broker. Then I moved into commercial construction. So essentially a foreman building apartment complexes. And then we moved back to Colorado Springs in 2016. I did my own consulting work in the HR, team engagement, employee engagement, leadership development space for a while. And it's at that point in 2018 that I actually landed I realized that I needed to work with the team, and just working by myself was kind of getting me kind of depressed a bit. And so I actually intentionally looked for a small team that I could be a part of. They almost didn't really care what. It was just like, I need people with me every day. And so I ended up working at a small software company it's basically a database, basically a version of Salesforce for the sports industry. And so I ended up working there, and over those 3-4 years, kind of essentially did a lot of consulting with our clients and taking requirements and handing it to our development team and writing code myself. I learned SQL.
Wow.
It was again, very small team, a handful of us really. And so I really learned, this dynamic between development and the interface. We had a back end, we had a front end, and then working with very non-tech savvy clients to tease out of them what they needed. And so in that environment, we were essentially the Salesforce and the consultant. So we had both. We had the platform, and we were essentially the in-house consultants on that side. So that was kind of my background before finding Salesforce. I started Talent Stacker in February of 2021, so 12 months ago, almost to the day. And so a very varied career as far as non-tech, non-Salesforce, non-CRM, but the last 4 years was actually in a somewhat similar genre of work.
That's neat. I'm going to kind of go off the list of questions, but that kind of intrigued me. Did you get exposure, or obviously most of us probably already knew about Salesforce, but working in that environment already with a CRM, did you know a lot about Salesforce and just really wanted to get into that world, or?
I did not. So I did not know much about Salesforce, funnily enough. I'd only actually heard like not great things about it, from non-tech users, from other, the friends of mine who would try to use it, like, IT never lets me, I can't access this or whatever it is. But I didn't really know what it was. I'd never seen the interface or anything. And then actually in the fall of 2020, I was on holiday, and we met some other couples, and one of the guys actually works for Salesforce he's like in the healthcare space, but works for Salesforce itself. And he was telling me about Salesforce. I was like, man, that sounds really similar to kind of what we do, but better, So I kind of began to look into it, and obviously a big ChooseFI fan and listener, and have been for several years. And so I think I may have heard Bradley's interview. And then when the five-day challenge kind of came out, early in that time, I jumped into it, and I was intentional. I said, all right, I am planning to transition into Salesforce by September. That was the goal. I was starting in February. It was like 6 months. I was like, oh, I'm going to transition into Salesforce, basically leverage my current understanding of how these things works and relational databases and user interface and all of that, but translating my knowledge and skills and experience into learning a different system. And that was the plan, and it worked.
That's nice though, because you probably understood really quickly how all the functionality, even though not specifically, but kind of, at least, if not more, the high level overview. That's a really neat background.
Yeah,
I think more.
It helped because I could see, when I was learning Trailhead and going through stuff, like, oh, wow, I can build this just with point and click. Like I would normally have to code that and use this include file and this JavaScript and and build it together. And it's like, this is so much nicer. So that's how I did understand why it was doing these things. And then as far as the relational element, as far as lookups and master detail concepts. So I understood that inherently, but then it just took me time to learn Salesforce itself.
Platform. What would you say were the challenges you experienced, either getting into the Salesforce ecosystem or getting a position in Salesforce? What were the challenges you had to kind of overcome? Or
I mean, I think because I did not try without the talent stacker methodology, I didn't try for a while by myself, sending out millions of resumes or anything like that, just having done stuff by myself, because I know some people have. So I was like, no, I'm just going to trust the process, go through the LinkedIn things. I joined a study group straight away. And I kind of was a little bit late to that party, but ended up, getting certified, along with everybody else. And so I just trusted the process. So as far as I think I avoided a lot of pain as far as by trying by myself. And typically I will try a lot of stuff by myself, but I had a very specific kind of time frame. And so it was a little bit, I don't have the energy to trust myself and fight just for the cost of the program. And with all of the testimonials, even then, I think there was only 40 people had started it by the time I did. So it was really small. So I was kind of, pretty early on, but still I'd had seen, wow, this is legit. I'm going to trust this, work the process. And I knew that having that community, and like you said earlier, Erin, just that immediately that Ohana feeling just kind of hits you in the face, and you're like, wow, this is the kind of place you want to be,
Yeah.
So as far as pain, I didn't really have a lot, in the sense, I feel really lucky, but I just worked really, really hard to study. I said, all right, I'm going to take the test on this day. I scraped a pass first time. So that was really amazing. And that kind of big breath of relief. And then I went, a couple of weeks later, went straight into the volunteer project, and with, jumped into a group of people from around the world doing that. And then essentially my journey into Fast Motion or into Salesforce, as far as being, employed at this point, was I'd signed up. I don't know if Salesforce, the Trailblazer Connect career fair happens a couple times a year, I think. So I remember back in, I think, April or May, I think you had to be certified, but you could apply to basically go to the career fair where they were going to have companies. And I had just finished the volunteer project. I had spent 6 weeks in the UK, so I'd just come back in July. And I knew this was happening on Monday, and I was just doing my due diligence the couple of days before the end of that previous week, looking through all of the 30, 40 companies that would be there, trying to see, okay, who resonates, which ones resonate with me? Because there's so many, and there's big ones, small ones. I mean, it's overwhelming, the amount of opportunity, but also the amount of different companies. And as soon as I stumbled on the Fast Slow Motion website and I watched a couple of videos, I was like, oh, this is the place that I want to be. And so I just immediately kind of reached out and connected with Fast Slow Motion, got the technical assessment kind of requirements, which I had a couple of weeks to do. And then I actually did go to the career fair. I didn't actually talk to anybody at Fast Slow Motion because I was already in that process, but I did end up connecting with a few other companies, a few of which I did start the interview process. And everybody was fantastic. I mean, again, like I don't know if there's many bad companies out there. So as far as, I just feel so good for everyone coming through TalentStack, coming through the process, that there's so much demand. There's so many great companies. It's like, yeah, it's going to be difficult for you to go wrong. You know, it's like just finding a spot. It's not like, well, there's this one great company and everybody else. No, there's so many great companies. So I kind of went through the process with a few at the same time, and then
I'm gonna call.
Hi.
That's cute.
And then really what worked for me is the Fast Slow Motion was the first one to kind of get to that stage of offer, and I was like, yeah, this is my first choice anyway. 100%, I'm in. So,
That's awesome.
So, you know, there was a little bit, you know, there wasn't much pain. I mean, but I totally feel that there could have been, but I was able to avoid some of it through Talent Stacker. And then I think for me, what really helped was the fact that I have a diverse business background. I've run businesses. I've done all of these different things, but also I've been doing software consulting, CRM consulting for 4 years. So that kind of gave me, I think, a little bit of a leg up, and to kind of come in at a consultant role level.
That I was going to ask, is that, you know, because of your background, were you more drawn to consultancy to begin with, or did you like Fast Slow Motion just in general, or also because it was a consulting company?
All of the above. I think, yeah, I was drawn to consulting in general because I like it. That's just kind of who I am as far as my personality. But also, I realized that all consultancies, particularly ones that work was like Fast Slow Motion with small and kind of small lower mid-market companies, they're very dynamic, and the kinds of companies you work with are very fun, and you're helping them, like they're startups and they're the fast-growing businesses. So it's very exciting versus working maybe for one of a giant consulting company with one client for 5 years. You know, I like the concept of, hey, I'm going to work with 7 clients at once, you know, and I might only work with a client for, 6 weeks, get them going, and then they go off and then they come back a few months later. Might be working with another client for like a year, but very dynamic. And, I've probably worked in about 15 different organizations at this point in 6 months or 5 months.
Is that, do you like that? I tend to get excited when I hear that, because as a nursing background, there's always change and always something new. Do you like that because of the constant change and movement?
I do. I love spinning lots of plates. I don't know if anybody's familiar with StrengthsFinder, but I've been like coaching StrengthsFinder type teams for a long time. And one of those strengths is arranger, which is like the plate spinner, like make it like Tetris, putting things in the right spot. So I love doing that with people, teams, as well as projects, and just like arranging stuff and making it efficient. And so the ability to have this constant having to pivot and like, all right, well, we've got this new client kickoff, we've got to move this around, and this is going to require these skills, so we're going to have to put this person in. So that dynamicism, crazy word, is really exciting for me. But I think the other piece is that just from a career standpoint, being at the stage of life I'm in and where I'm hoping to go, and as far as how long I'm looking to work, I wanted to accelerate my exposure and learning. And at an environment like we have FSM Motion, I feel like I'm getting 4 years worth of Salesforce work in 6 months, because it's so dynamic and you're working with lots of companies at once, and you have access to tons of talented people versus being plonked on a project and say, all right, just help this customer for the next 3 years. So
you don't get hidden away.
Yeah.
And just kind of tell us what your title is at Fast Slow Motion, and then what a typical day looks like for you.
Sure. So my role at FSM Motion is consultant, Salesforce Consultant. And there is the general roles above and below that. There's the implementation specialist, which is kind of a more entry-level-ish role. Before that kind of grows up into a consultant, and then we have a senior consultant, and then from there you can kind of either pivot into being a solutions architect, where you've got tons of certifications and you're a real brainiac and know lots of different things, and you're brought in for high-level, real technical problems, or you go into the team leadership perspective role, where it's like project leader, where you might have a team of 2 to 7 people, where you're basically managing your own book of clients. So those are kind of on the delivery implementation side, those are kind of the role. So I came in as a consultant, and my typical day would look like, well, I'll kind of take a Tuesday through Thursday, because those are more typical as far as a lot of client meetings. Mondays and Fridays are a lot of some planning and some, status reports and kind of different things, but just like the guts of the hard stuff and the really difficult stuff of the week on Monday, for me at least, Monday through Thursday at this point. Sorry, Tuesday through Thursday. And so those days typically look like half hour or so of kind of checking email messages, seeing what, how projects are kind of moving, checking, tasks that have been completed the night before, all of that. And then we have a daily stand-up in our team of about 6 people. And our team, so I have a project leader, and then there's about 5 of us under her, and she is fantastic. Tacita Thompson, shout out to you. And so on her team, we probably run about, I think, 15 or 17 projects at a time. And so I'm on about 6 or 7 of those. And so my day would typically look like daily stand up for about half an hour, and then client meeting, a weekly meeting. So we meet with all our clients at least weekly. So a weekly meeting for 45 minutes to an hour. Then straight after that, a recap debrief, whether I'm doing it by myself or with someone else on the team, whether or not they were in the meeting. But we kind of recap and we synthesize the notes. We create action items for myself, for the team, and we write requirements. So we send that out. So it's very fast paced. So we take the information from the meeting. We send the recap back to the client as far as with the recording. Here's what we discussed. Here are the action items for you, for us. And then I move into another one. And so those typical days would be about three of those clients, 3 clients with 3 recap meetings essentially in between. And then if there's any time, kind of, a couple hours at the end of the day are re-going through those tasks, responding to messages from clients that have come during those meetings, during your day, and putting in your time and kind of wrapping up the day. And if there's a deployment, or if there's an integration, like, I was doing something a couple of days ago, connecting information from Salesforce via Zapier into QuickBooks, which is the accounting software. So to create hundreds of invoices in one click. So I was testing that process. So I have actual work to do as well as like the meetings and the client things, but I kind of have that done normally at the end of the day, or if a meeting gets, if I'm able to make a meeting a little bit shorter, then I have a little bit more bandwidth during the day. But generally, yeah, my ideal schedule, if I'm fully flying, would probably be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 client meetings per day plus recap. So essentially running nine projects. I mean, that's a lot, but that's kind of the level that we're kind of heading towards.
Okay, that we had some notes come in the chat here. Just kind of few from Lori here. What types, considering you were just talking about your clients, what types of clients do you deal with? Are they multiple different sectors or kind of similar?
Yeah, so we work with all, as far as FSM Mission, we work with all clients as far as types of client, but we specifically work with growth businesses. So a lot of them are small businesses or lower mid-market. We do have a marketing cloud specialty, section essentially. We have a bunch of people really good, who have that experience, and so we have some more name brand clients like Cliff Bar, then things like that. So things that you may have heard of, whereas most of our day in and day out clients, they're in a lot of health and life sciences clients, a lot of service like field service lightning type clients. So that might be, trash services. It might be, I have a cool client that is essentially a fire engine dealership, which is really fascinating. So they fix fire engines and they rebuild them and they sell parts. So it's just kind of what you would imagine as a dealership, but for fire trucks for like a fourth of the country. And so we're like connecting their system to their accounting, managing all of their work orders and all of the crazy stuff that you have to do, millions of different parts that, nuts and bolts that they have to do. And anyway, all of that. So it's a very diverse group of clients, but the common thread is that they are fast growing. They are, I'm not say innovative necessarily, but they're not stagnant companies. These are ones that are growing, 30-50% per year. They're expanding territories. They're taking over the world. And the one, not stipulation, but the kinds of clients we work with, we have direct access to, whether it's the CEO or kind of like the upper leadership, the actual decision makers that we work with week in and week out to move these projects along every single week, versus if we were a different kind of consulting company and we had a giant, S&P 500 type client that you would be working with a tiny division with multiple layers of management. And like, that is not at all what we do. We're boots on the ground, real people, real decision makers, and it's really fun.
Do you, with these clients, have you ever had to do travel to go to in-person meetings since you've been with Fast Slow Motion, or are they all virtual?
100% virtual. There is no travel whatsoever. I think we're all going to get together as a company in June, but for a few days. But that's it. I think if I happen to have a client in Colorado Springs, which I might get at some point, I might drive down and say hi and connect there. But most of our clients, a lot of their team are working remotely too, so they're not necessarily even in one location anyway. But we're able to offer such service and cost to our clients because we don't have hotels and flights and
that adds up.
all of that stuff. And as well as we value, one of our core values is flexibility, and a lot of that is about on the employee side, like making sure the employees have the flexibility to go and pick their kids up from the bus stop and to have dinner with them and to or move somewhere else for 3 months and work from there, and just that ultimate flexibility, because there isn't this in-office culture and there isn't this travel to clients culture.
Nice. That's good to hear too, because I've been curious about consultancy with how flexible they can really be. We did have a really good question from Mara Dector in the chat, wanting to know a little bit more about kind of that technical interview or the project you had to do during the hiring process, and if you had to do any coding with that.
Sure. Yeah. So everybody who goes through the hiring process of Fast Motion does a I don't know what we call it, like an assessment or a technical challenge or something, but basically you build your own demo. So you have a set of requirements and you build, you set up a dev org or Salesforce development org, and you build out your Salesforce org as if Fast Motion were the client. So we'll kind of look at what we're looking for, and that is the buildability, but there's no coding. So there's no Apex or anything like that. It's just declarative, page layouts and setting up lead conversion processes and all of the somewhat standard stuff, Sales Cloud type stuff. But it really is it's a canvas for you to show what you can do and also show how you think, because we work in a very fast-paced environment. So it's not just what you can do, but it's how you think, and did you take extra steps where they were unnecessary? Were you efficient with the thought process, but also it's whether or not you video it and send it in, like video your demo, it's like a 15 to 20 minute demo, depending, or you are invited to do it live, as far as live to a person, which I did. But it varies whether or not you video it or you do it live. And because we're essentially looking at how do you consult? Are you able to? It's not so much about asking the questions because you're demoing. You're not actually asking questions of the client then and there. But it really is. Did you put yourself in the position of the client and think on their best behalf, on their behalf, what would be best for them? Not just this is just a cookie cutter way we do things. No, really thinking through what truly reading into the requirements best you can. And kind of building it to that. And then also we look at how do you engage? Because again, we spend a lot of time on video calls like this with people, and you build really solid relationships with your clients. And so it's really important, particularly when you get into the consulting role. I mean, as an implementation specialist, you're not on as many client calls because you're doing a lot more building. But the idea is that you move quickly into consulting and then into senior consulting and so on and so forth. The idea is you move very quickly because we're growing very quickly. So we are really looking for people who engage and are able to kind of capture, build that relationship and that trust quickly. So I don't know if that answers the question. So no coding. Takes a couple of weeks to build the project. So it is kind of a bit of a process. You have to show that you're committed to putting in the effort. But it really is a case to showcase what you can do, how you consult, and think through what the client is really wanting and needing, and then also how you communicate and engage through that demo.
Nice. Did you have to submit yours or did you demo it?
When I did it, I demoed it live to the COO.
Oh, nice. I think I would prefer live because I can kind of read the room.
Yeah. And so you may be able to request it. I'm not sure how it's going these days. I mean, again, I think this year we are looking to hire, it's like 60 or 70 people. So, wow. And we're at about 85 now. So as far as we're growing a lot. We grew a lot last year, and just a note to everybody in the kind of community. But I think that across the board, February time-ish and August time-ish are kind of big hiring months, just in the ecosystem.
Okay, that's good.
One of the reasons for that is because Salesforce heavily discounts their licenses but by the end of their fiscal year, which is end of January. And so it's not like they're dumping licenses, but they're offering really good incentives for companies to bite the bullet, buy the licenses, and therefore that's in January, February, they need a lot of help. So these consultancy firms need a lot of hands on deck in February and March, particularly. So it's a busy month right now. Let's just say that.
On that note, we, knowing that we're all from the Healthcare Heroes group, all healthcare backgrounds, what suggestions would you give to those of us who haven't transitioned yet on, if we wanted to do consultancy or, just continue to get our admin and finding a position, what would be your biggest tips on making that transition?
Well, first of all, I think if you're coming from the healthcare industry, the health and life sciences sector within Salesforce, as far as the amount of new companies who are in that world using Salesforce and kind of starting to Salesforce, is exploding. So you're in a really good position to be able to leverage your understanding of the healthcare industry and some of understanding all the insurance stuff and just like how the dynamics of healthcare work. Like that's a huge benefit, I think, right now, particularly in 2022. So everybody in this call and everybody who listens to this is in a really strong position to find a Salesforce related role. And I think particularly in the consulting space. And I do know that for Fast Slow Motion, we grew a lot in 2021 in health and life sciences. And our aim is to 3x our number of clients in healthcare and life sciences. And there are a lot of people out there who have their admin cert or who are technically able Salesforce wise, but there's a lot out there. So for Fast Slow Motion in general, a lot of people on the team, they're former entrepreneurs, they've run businesses, they really understand the business acumen side of things, because that's typically who we work with day in and day out. So that's a huge thing to kind of think about as far as what do you bring from the business understanding side. But specifically, I think you guys are in a really amazing position to bring the Salesforce knowledge that you're learning and kind of expanding on, and your healthcare knowledge. And I would really highlight that. And if anybody is interested in applying at Fast Slow Motion, kind of let me know, because I know we are really wanting to grow that team, that and this is not just like, oh, this is the healthcare team, but just that knowledge across the company. And I think that your healthcare backgrounds can help kind of bridge that gap, even if your Salesforce experience or Salesforce technical chops, may not be, where somebody else is, but you bring the healthcare piece and that knowledge of that industry, I think is going to really help.
So you hear that, everybody? What we know is valuable.
Yeah, you may not. That's the thing, because you're trying to think, how can I translate this into Salesforce? Well, you almost don't have to in some ways, because a lot of these healthcare companies are taking on Salesforce to manage their thing. So if you come in with the industry knowledge and then a level of Salesforce understanding, but that you can grow in the knowledge of the healthcare industry. You can't teach that. You have to, you've just learned it through years of being in it. So it's really, really valuable. And I know for Fast Slow Motion, I'm sure for other firms that is something that they will be looking at as they try to basically find people to help them better connect with those kinds of clients.
Looks like you've got some ears perked on the chat here about Fast Slow Motion. About some positions. Does Fast Slow Motion have entry-level positions? Lori would like to know. And then do you hire people only that are already certified?
Yes and no. So first question, and FSM, does it have any entry-level positions? Yes, I mean, our entry-ish level position is the implementation specialist, and that role, is essentially responsible for doing a lot of building. So configuring, setting up sandboxes and page layouts and adding fields and building flows and I don't get to do as much building as maybe I'd like, because I'm a lot of time with clients, but I'm kind of synthesizing that and then providing that to our team of implementation specialists. And again, we work on a small team, so there may be one project leader, a senior consultant, a couple of 2 or 3 consultants, and then maybe 3 or 4 implementation specialists. So you're a close-knit group as you kind of continue to kind of grow up. together. But yeah, the implementation specialist is the entry level role. And then from there, if you want to go into the consulting space, like more client facing arena, you kind of move into as a consultant. Or if you don't want to do that, and you are really more interested in learning how to code and Apex and being a developer, then there's a kind of a route for that too. But the implementation specialist is our most entry level role. However, I will say that a lot of people do want to work at FSM Motion, and so a lot of people do apply, and there's only a certain number of people that make it through. So what you guys bring with the healthcare piece is key, as far as setting yourself apart with that industry knowledge. And then do we only hire people who are already certified? I would say that the vast majority of people do come with a certification. But I personally know people who have been hired and still don't have their admin cert. But again, we do value certifications, partly because it helps as far as just the company in general in Salesforce's eyes, as far as how many certifications the overall team, and that's the same for every partner. But I just got my second certification, Platform App Builder, a few weeks ago, and next one will be Sales Cloud. So you're kind of planning on getting a couple a year, kind of rhythm, but explicitly, no. I mean, that is not a requirement, because if you get into the technical assessment process, then they're not looking at, okay, how many certifications do you have? They're looking at your actual demo. So which is I actually really like that, because it gives people a bit of a level playing field. Now, naturally, if you have your certification, you're most likely to be better at building a demo because you've really learned a lot of stuff. But it's not necessary. But you'll certainly be encouraged to get it pretty quick after starting.
And when you mentioned you got your Platform App Builder cert, do you feel like now that you work in Salesforce, obviously I know you still probably had to study for it, but did it kind of settle into your brain a little more easily because you were working in the platform this second time around? Yeah,
for the Platform App Builder, the admin kind of builds, it just builds on top of the admin a bit, as far as it has some of the same questions or, understanding, but a lot of it is to do with automation. And yeah, day two on the job, I was building some crazy flow, and it kept not working. So, I had to get a lot of help. I was like, oh, I don't understand this. It's frustrating, but just learning on the job. And yeah, now 5 months in, the day in and day out in the systems. And again, that's the beautiful thing about being in multiple different orgs any given day. Some we're working on this kind of integration or flow, and some are working on this. So it's not like one flavor. You learn from this. I mean, I work on one org and I'm like, I need to open up this one, another client, to see how I did it here, so I can do it there. And we do a lot of project stories. So when somebody learns something interesting, or has a nuance thing that they've kind of learned or implemented, they'll create on the team, they'll create a video explaining that, and then that's accessible as kind of in our internal wiki concept, if you will, for people to reach out. And in fact, just yesterday had a colleague, another consultant on a different team, say, hey, I just thank you so much for doing that project story on CMTD, which is some crazy list view concept that you can download from the App Store, that I did 3 months ago, because it's helping her implement it for a different client. So there's this real FSM Ohana concept. And I'm not just here to toot FSM's horn, but it's a really awesome place to live, to work, as far as the team. And you really feel like, man, everybody that I meet, and there's about 80 of us now, I was like, everybody I connect with is like, man, this could be my best friend. It's just the kind of people they hire. It's not like everybody's the same. Everybody's very different, but you feel like they have the same inner thing, it's just, you know what I mean? There's just something about it. Which is why, again, I think the hiring process, it's long, you have 2 weeks of building, and then, you go through a process and you meet with the technical architect, and you meet with the people director, and then if you go through, you'll meet with like the CEO, and then you'll meet with the CEO again to do the offer. So like you're highly vetted. But really, I think once you're through the technical piece, it's more or less about which team would you fit on best, and like just getting different people's kind of connections on you. Like, is it going to be a good fit for both of us as far as the being coming into the family, and does that dynamic improve or negatively impact? And then it's and then it's more of a case of like, do you want to work here?
Yeah. I like how I hear more now with, I guess, the way the job application environment is. It's really interview on both sides, because you want it to be a place you want to work at as well. So if it doesn't work out for you in that regard, then it's not good for the employee or employer either.
No, and you have to be very self-motivated too, because everybody's at home, so it's again, you'll know if you're kind of slacking off, if you will, but there's a lot of autonomy, there's a lot of independence, again, ultimate flexibility as far as all of that. But we over communicate with, hey, I'm stepping out for a couple of hours, there's just constant communication, and it really feels like we could almost be in one building, but we don't waste any time, because we're not having those water cooler moments, even though we are doing a lot of video calls and we are connecting and chatting and doing all of this stuff with each other. You don't have the commuting wasting time, and you don't have just somebody showing up at your cubicle while you're trying to get something done. Like, if you have time, just ignore them and say, hey, I'm working, and you just go. So I really like this work environment.
Nice. I know we had a few more questions. I'm gonna kind of look through here so we can get those wrapped up. I think one of the big ones, I know Lori, it takes a lot of time with community building, and she's so new to the Salesforce, like most of us all are so new to the ecosystem. So that's something that she's really excelled at. Does Fast Slow Motion encourage that community building outside of Fast Slow Motion, or time taking, maybe making those connections on LinkedIn or with other people in the Salesforce world?
Yeah, I guess to some extent, we Fast Slow Motion are we're kind of growing a lot. So I think we went from 40 people at the end of 2020 to 80 people at the end of 2021 to potentially looking at 140 people by the end of 2022. So like we're kind of new, having to figure out new things as we go, as far as that's concerned. I think we're in an interesting space where we already, like, on the talent stacker side, like we already have like 9 of us since
Wow.
August. And I mentioned that from talent stacker, the study group and the volunteer project. Well, there's one guy from my study group, and there's another guy from my volunteer project at Fast Slow Motion. So it's I'm communicating with probably 3 or 4 people in the process at any given time, just like helping them, basically doing these kinds of questions, but helping them through the process and checking in on, hey, let me see where this is at, and just like helping guide them through the process. Because I love doing this. So it a little bit is personal preference. So like, yes. So the answer is like, yes, as far as like, this is what I'm doing is highly encouraged. Now, I'm not billing this hour or whatever, like, to any client. There's no one specific client I can say, yeah, I did that for. So it's not something that counts towards my billable hours, if you will. But as far as me and my career and just doing my part to help the whole company grow is, massively encouraged. And, but in the sense of, can I have a couple hours off every day to spend building this? Well, no, our clients are paying us money for us to work for them. So it's, so there's not exactly that, but at the same time, Fast Slow Motion, we have people, like, I think we have like, 3, 4, 5 people who basically all they do is build relationships with Salesforce account executives.
Oh, wow.
So don't tell anyone, but that's but that is a lot of our success because we have actual real relationships with the people at Salesforce who have these new people clients, and they are just sending everybody our way because everybody loves working with us and we have a good relationship. And so we're very intentional on relationships, and this is kind of part of, it's just kind of the people, it's just kind of the kind of people we end up hiring are the kind of people that are willing to give of their time to help other people either get into the system and obviously get cool clients, because this is what we do every day. We want cool, fun clients.
Nice. Kind of made me think of the little, I mean, obviously different contexts, but they always taught us in nursing, the bedside manner can go such a long way. And it's not just how you're just treating the patient, their family, so even if they had maybe not having to do with you, but they had an unfortunate delay in their surgery, but you were, really kind and concerning, it just goes a long way when, you're building relationships with, a whole group of people.
100%. And reality is that consulting and what we do, even though yes, we configure Salesforce, yes, we do all of that stuff, but really our job is relationship builders. Like we connect with our clients, we help them articulate and ask questions to really get to the bottom of what they really need and what's going to bless them and their business. Because again, often we're talking to the business owner or like a high kind of stakeholder, like the CFO or whatever it may be. Like we're talking with like high level people again in these small growing businesses. But the mission of Faster Motion is to be a blessing to business leaders. Like that's it. Like so we use Salesforce. But if I had a call with a client and we didn't talk a lick about Salesforce, it would still be my goal to be a blessing. Like what's going on with their life? And again, because you end up talking with these people, every week for weeks or months, you probably have more of a quality conversation with them than maybe some of your actual friends, as far as an hour a week with this person. And so you do build a relationship, and that when they were sick or when, their daughter had a surgery or they went on vacation, and, it's a relationship. So basically you're managing, these, half dozen relationships every week, and you become their person, and your job is to help them, help bless them, and ideally through Salesforce, but sometimes it's just hearing what went over on the weekend, and they couldn't meet because of whatever, but you just reach out and you find out how it went. So I mentioned that I spent 8 years in full-time kind of pastoral ministry, but I feel like I do more engaging and connecting and like helping people now than I ever did.
Wow. That's powerful. That's really neat. I love relationship building. So I've been really kind of attracted to going into the consulting role. So that's really good to hear. I don't know if you have any additional info or tidbits, but I know Lori, before anybody leaves, Lori wants a screenshot, so nobody sneak out.
If you can have your faces on, that would be great.
Yeah.
Do we want to get that now?
To get your face on? I guess the others are shy. I'm gonna start my snipping tool. And here goes. There.
Exercising.
I know.
Yeah, she's on the Peloton.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, before we head out, do you recommend any like a treadmill desk or standing desk or anything like that?
I recommend as many monitors as you can fit.
Okay.
Because you've got so many clients. I mean, I think I have two curved 27 inches next to each other. So I got 54 inches of curved screen around me and my laptop. And that generally is enough, but if I had space, I could do a couple more, but. And yeah, I mean, first I had to have a standing desk or it goes up and down. So I think the first 3 weeks I was like, okay, I'm going to try to stand up, because I had been sitting down before for the last several years. And, you kind of get tired after, a couple of hours, and I would say, okay, on client calls, I'm going to sit down, but on when I'm actually building stuff, I'm going to stand up, listen to my music, and like actually kind of get in the flow in the zone. But nowadays I stand up all day. So I might be standing up here or I stand on a foam roller from trying to work on my calf stretching. But
Mobility.
yeah, but I mean, big picture, guys. I mean, I 100% believe that all of you are going to land somewhere really, really great. And there's very few bad places in the ecosystem, and you'll sniff them out pretty quick. Just don't bother with them. And with you guys, with your healthcare background, at Fast Slow Motion, as well as at other places, I'm sure, that are growing in the health and life sciences space, your experience and your knowledge of the industry and the vernacular and how to talk to other healthcare oriented businesses is going to be hugely valuable. So if anybody wants to message me, after this or whatever, that would like to be introduced to our recruiting team at Fast Slow Motion, I would love to introduce you. And yeah, if you have any further questions, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn and be of any service I can.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I know there were some folks in the chat that said you've always been very helpful. And again, today, this is huge that you took the time out of your day and on a Friday. Fun Friday. Thank you so much.
Friday. I'm actually taking the day off, so I'm working on my back deck. So I've been outside with a chainsaw chopping up my old deck that I tore off while I build the new one. So yeah, so it's a day off for me. So this was this was a nice afternoon, Friday afternoon chat for me. So thanks for being here.
Really appreciate you taking the time. So many questions answered and so encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have any follow-up questions, let me know. And I'm just excited for all of you, because again, I'm where you're at, a few months ago. And man, it feels like I got 4 years of experience in the last 5.5 months. So there's no turning back now. It's just go time.
Nice.
All right. I'm gonna wrap this up now. Really,
Awesome.
Thank you everyone for coming. It was really an enjoyable chat. Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome. Hey, have a great weekend, guys.
You too.